Good afternoon. My name is Trooper Cliff Greenfield. I serve as a public information officer for the Pennsylvania State Police, and we want to thank you for coming today. I'd like to introduce those of you before you. On my left is Indiana County District Attorney Mr. Patrick Doherty. On my immediate right is our Indiana Station Commander, Lieutenant Joe Loughran. On his right is our Troop Commander, Captain Jeff Fisher. And on the captain's right is Lieutenant Lisa Jobe. She's our Criminal Investigation Section Commander for the troop. As you're aware, on June 24th, 2019, about 6 weeks ago, two members of the Pennsylvania State Police assigned to the Troop A Indiana Station were transporting a 20-year-old male prisoner to State Correctional Institution Pine Grove, located at 189 Fyock Road, White Township, Indiana County, and this was following a preliminary hearing. At the time of this incident, the trooper's unmarked patrol vehicle was traveling near the entrance to SCI Pine Grove. As the vehicle was in motion, an incident occurred inside the patrol vehicle. Additional troopers immediately responded, secured the scene, and found both troopers and the prisoner to have sustained various injuries. Advanced medical aid was summoned and was immediately rendered to the two troopers and to the prisoner. We are here today to announce the filing of criminal charges against the prisoner involved in this incident. That prisoner is hereby identified as Samir Maurice Alford. Samir is spelled S-I-M-E-R-E. His middle name, Maurice, is spelled M-A-U-R-I-C-E, and his last name is spelled A-L-F-O-R-D. Mr. Alford is also known as Samir Ord, and that last name is spelled O-R-D as in Delta, Ord. Upon consultation with Indiana County District Attorney Patrick Doherty, Mr. Alford has now been charged with 2 counts of criminal attempt murder of a law enforcement officer of the first degree, graded as a felony 1. Mr. Alford is also charged with 2 counts of aggravated assault, graded as a felony 1, 1 count of robbery, graded as a felony 1, 1 count of criminal attempt robbery of a motor vehicle, graded as a felony 1, 2 counts of assault of law enforcement officer, graded as a felony 1, and other related charges as well. In all, Mr. Alford faces a total of 19 felony counts. Mr. Alford remains incarcerated at SCI Pine Grove pending his preliminary arraignment, which is scheduled for this Friday, August 9th at 9 a.m. before Magisterial District Judge Christopher Welch. The preliminary arraignment will take place at SCI Pine Grove. The details of this incident are as follows. On Monday, June 24th, 2019, at approximately 12:24 p.m., 2 troopers with a combined 33 years of service and who are assigned to our Troop A Indiana Station were transporting Mr. Alford from Magisterial District Court 4301 in Clymer back to SCI Pine Grove following a preliminary hearing. The exact distance from Magisterial District Court 4301 to SCI Pine Grove via State Route 286 is 5 miles. This prisoner transport was a distance of 5 miles. The troopers were operating a Pennsylvania State Police unmarked Ford Crown Victoria Police Interceptor sedan. The male trooper, who has 11 years of service with the Pennsylvania State Police, was seated in the driver's seat and was operating the patrol vehicle at the time of this incident. The female trooper, who has 22 years of service with the Pennsylvania State Police, was seated in the front passenger seat. The defendant, Mr. Alford, was seated in the rear seat on the passenger side. There were no other occupants in the vehicle, and both troopers and Mr. Alford were seatbelted. Mr. Alford was secured via leg restraints, handcuffs, and a leather transport belt. Mr. Alford's hands were handcuffed in front of him, with the handcuffs secured to the transport belt. The transport belt was buckled behind Mr. Elford's back. At some point during this transport, Mr. Elford was able to manipulate the transport belt by unbuckling the strap, freeing his hands from his waist, and unbuckling his seat belt. Mr. Elford's hands and legs remained secured with the handcuffs and leg restraints. At 12:24 p.m., the male trooper driving the patrol vehicle began to turn left from State Route 286 onto Fayok Road. This intersection is very near to and within sight distance of SCI Pine Grove. At that time, Mr. Elford lunged forward between the two front seats and obtained possession of the male trooper's personally owned, department-authorized Glock .45 caliber pistol, which was secured in a holster on the right side of the trooper's waist. Immediately upon disarming the male trooper, Mr. Elford fired a single round in the direction of the male trooper, with the round nearly striking the right side of the trooper's head. The round exited the patrol vehicle through the front windshield in the driver's side area above the inspection emission stickers. As this occurred, and while the vehicle was still in motion, the male trooper removed his hands from the steering wheel and reached back between the seats. This trooper then grabbed the slide of the firearm as Mr. Elford fired a second round. This round was determined to have struck Mr. Elford's left leg and foot before traveling into the floorboard near the transmission tunnel and into the frame of the vehicle. After this second shot, the firearm jammed. This jam was likely due to the trooper's grip of the firearm over the slide, which is believed to have prevented the spent casing from ejecting and prohibiting the firearm from cycling another round into the chamber. The patrol vehicle then crashed into the guardrail along Fayok Road about 500 feet south of State Route 286 and about 300 feet north of SCI Pine Grove. The frontal impact from the crash caused the patrol vehicle's airbags to deploy, and the vehicle became disabled. The female trooper then exited the patrol vehicle via the front passenger side door, unholstered her pistol, and opened the rear passenger side door. The male trooper and Mr. Elford both then exited the patrol vehicle via the rear passenger side door. As this occurred, the .45 caliber pistol that Mr. Elford had fired fell to the ground from the door opening. At this point, the male trooper quickly regained control of Mr. Elford and held Mr. Elford against the ground until responding troopers arrived. Neither trooper fired a shot. Both troopers and Mr. Elford were transported by Citizens Ambulance Service to Indiana Regional Medical Center for treatment, and all three were treated and released later that day, with Mr. Elford having been returned to SCI Pine Grove. I'd like to share with you some thoughts now. In this encounter, our two veteran troopers were faced with a sudden, violent, life or death situation inside their patrol car as the vehicle was in motion on a highway. These troopers risked their lives to immediately stop the violent actions of a prisoner in their custody. As a result of their courage, commitment to duty, and their training and experience, they were able to immediately and effectively stop the actions of a violent prisoner and regain control in a matter of seconds, even as their patrol vehicle crashed into a guardrail and the vehicle's airbags deployed. It should be noted that these two troopers accomplished their mission to regain control of their prisoner without any further injury to the prisoner. As a result of this incident, the male trooper sustained minor injuries and has since been returned to full duty status. The female trooper is currently on limited duty status due to having sustained a fractured left arm, which is the result of the crash and subsequent airbag deployment. According to our standard Pennsylvania State Police policy, both troopers were assigned to administrative duties while the incident was being investigated. This was in no way disciplinary and is simply a standard Pennsylvania State Police policy for officer-involved shootings and serious police incidents. Because the two troopers are assigned to the Troop A Indiana Station, a criminal investigation unit supervisor from the Greensburg Station was assigned as the lead investigator. Lead investigator Corporal Nicholas Pelk and his team worked diligently to uncover the facts of this case, and with the approval of District Attorney Patrick Doherty, have brought forth these charges against Mr. Elford. Indiana County District Attorney Patrick Doherty also quickly responded to the scene that day and was apprised of the incident and subsequent investigation. As you know, this criminal investigation lasted about 6 weeks. It's vitally important that an investigation of this magnitude be given the due diligence needed to ensure a thorough, comprehensive investigation. Our Troop A Major Case team worked tirelessly to seek out every detail in order to establish with certainty an accurate account of what transpired before, during, and after this incident. We estimate that the entire incident lasted approximately 15 to 20 seconds. Upon conducting interviews and gathering evidence, it is our firm belief that Mr. Elford, in an attempt to escape from custody, intended to shoot both of our troopers and steal their patrol car. We are very fortunate to have both of these troopers with us today. Every time a trooper or law enforcement officer transports a prisoner, there is a potential for danger. Almost every day, troopers and law enforcement officers here in Indiana County and throughout the Commonwealth are tasked with transporting prisoners who have been placed under arrest or are being transported to or from a court proceeding. On occasion, a prisoner, male or female, young or old, may choose to act violently while in custody, and for the protection of the public, ourselves, and the prisoner, we are trained to deal with those situations quickly and professionally. Now, I know that you, as members of the media and members of the public, may have questions about our prisoner transport policy. For officer safety reasons, we cannot discuss specifics of how prisoners are transported. However, we can say that the safety of our members, prisoners, and the general public is our top priority. Pennsylvania State Police leadership regularly reviews department regulations and training to ensure this important function is carried out as safely and efficiently as possible. As with these types of incidents, a comprehensive review of the incident is being conducted to include policies and procedures. Pennsylvania State Police policies and procedures are continuously monitored, reviewed, and updated. In closing, we would like to thank the following agencies that assisted our members at the scene on June 24th. Those would be the Pennsylvania Department of Corrections, the Indiana County District Attorney's Office, Citizens Ambulance Service, and Indiana County Emergency Management Agency. Thank you. Mr. Doherty.
Good afternoon. First, I want to say there is no such thing as a routine law enforcement encounter. At any time on any given day, what may feel routine or what may appear to be routine can turn on its head as quickly as this incident did. As you heard, 15 to 20 seconds can make the difference between life and death for our law enforcement. These troopers acted nobly. They acted within their training, and we were able to investigate this matter and look into all the aspects of it, and we were able to justify their actions on the day in question. With regard to the defendant, our office is going to vigorously prosecute this individual. We cannot have these type of incidents in our community. As you know, we house a rather large state correctional institution. Inmates are removed from that facility on a regular basis, and we cannot tolerate the actions of an individual like this. So we will be prosecuting this case very vigorously. And on a more personal note, it's always hard because we sometimes tend to forget with those in law enforcement. But these are our friends, these are our neighbors, these are our coaches, these are people that are ingrained in our community. And, it's so much more than just a state trooper. It's easy in this day and age to label things and to say, well, that's just a police shooting. Well, number one, there was no police shooting this day. Number two, their training and activities prevented a lot of bad things that could have happened. So what I would recommend is that anyone listening understands how quickly a situation like this can change. And next time you see a law enforcement officer on the street, go up and thank them for the work they do to protect our communities. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Mr. Doherty. Captain?
I'd just like to add, and I appreciate that, D.A. Doherty. And it's been said, this highlights the dangers that our members can face and do face on a daily basis. And due to their quick action, they prevented a true tragedy from occurring, and the injuries that were suffered from our members, gladly they will heal from. That's all I have.
Good. Thank you. Thank you, sir. Are there any questions?
Can you walk us through again how he was able, kind of setup of how he was able to get free from this handcuff?
Sure. I'll just reiterate, he was wearing a transport belt. He was handcuffed in the front. Those handcuffs were secured to the transport belt. And typically with those transport belts, there's a metal ring attached to the leather belt, and the handcuffs are fed through that ring. Okay. The belt has a buckle, much like a typical belt, that would have been to his rear. Somehow he was able to unbuckle that belt and loosen the belt enough so that he could undo his seatbelt. And at that point, or shortly thereafter, he was able to lunge forward between the seats of the patrol car and obtain possession of the male trooper's firearm.
So technically he was still handcuffed when he lunged forward?
Yes, when he lunged forward, he was still handcuffed, and he was still wearing the leg restraints around his ankles.
Trooper Greenfield, would you consider this to be an isolated incident then?
Yes. However, I would say also that during every prisoner interaction, there's the potential for danger. And this is something that is always on our minds when we're on patrol. Our troopers here in Indiana sometimes conduct multiple prisoner transports a shift. And this is something that we are constantly aware of, and we are thankful that our two troopers are still with us today, and that, as you said, this was an isolated incident.
Cliff, forgive the question, but and I presume that for security reasons you are restrained from identifying the two troopers?
Currently, we are not publicly identifying those two troopers. That decision is made by our department communications director, Trooper Brent Miller. If you have any further questions, you're welcome to contact him.
You stated that it was an undercover Crown Vic. Is it an older car?
This was an unmarked police interceptor sedan, not an undercover vehicle.
Oh, okay, I'm sorry. It did not have a partition in between the rear and the front?
That's correct. There was no partition in that patrol vehicle, so someone seated in the rear seat would have access to those in the front seats.
Why was Mr. Alford facing a hearing that day, and what was Mr. Alford, or what is he serving time at Pine Grove for?
I'm not able to divulge his criminal history. You're welcome to look into that. Our troopers had filed charges against Mr. Alford. Those charges were filed at Judge Welch's office, and they were transporting him there for a preliminary hearing, and then returning him to SCI Pine Grove.
Cliff, you touched on this, but a matter of inches, it sounds like. I mean, how do you?
Yes.
It's got to be something that you guys know you have to deal with every now and then. It's something that happens. You have to be ready for it. But how do you guys, as a team, process this?
We talk to each other. We share our concerns with each other. We build each other up, and we look out for each other.
If I could just
Yes,
add,
sir.
In the aftermath of this incident, our members assistance program comes forward and they assist us in dealing with these incidents. Obviously, a station, any station, we're family. So, there was a lot of concern and emotion around this incident. So they helped us through that, as they always do.
Thank you, sir.
Just so that we're straight on some of these charges, 2 counts of criminal attempted murder of an officer, 2 counts aggravated assault. You go ahead and go through that.
I can read.
Again.
Sure, I can recite those, Josh. Those charges that Mr. Alford is facing are 2 counts of criminal attempt murder of a law enforcement officer of the 1st degree. That's graded as a felony 1. Mr. Alford is also charged with 2 counts of aggravated assault, graded as a felony 1. 1 count of robbery, graded as a felony 1. 1 count of criminal attempt robbery of a motor vehicle, graded as a felony 1. 2 counts of assault of law enforcement officer, graded as a felony 1, and several other related charges. In total, he's facing 19 felony counts.
Is there a range of penalty time in prison if he's found guilty on any or all of the above?
I can let Mr. Doherty speak to that.
The felony ones will carry a maximum of 20 years. Now, the attempted murder could carry as much as 40 years. Those are maximums, Pat. There's also fines and costs, and I'm not going to get into all that with you. But the felony ones carry, that 20-year, and the murder charges could carry up to 40.
How may this have disrupted the day-to-day operations, or how has it disrupted operations at the Indiana barracks?
I was on duty that day. I responded to this incident. And this was an all-hands-on-deck response. So certainly you could imagine how it would affect our operations for that shift and the subsequent shifts. We still have other duties to carry out when something like this happens. And so we may call in troopers from surrounding stations for assistance. In this case, I don't know that we did that, but sometimes we have done that. But we have adequate personnel in place that we can call in from surrounding stations to field calls and so forth for us. Every trooper in Indiana County that was available to respond that day did respond and acted professionally, and we are prepared to respond to something like this all the time.
Cliff, you see the emotion. We can see it. What is it about this? What are you feeling? What's the emotion that makes this so tough for you?
I've worked with these troopers for a long time. I have a lot of respect for them and the job they do. That's why.
Cliff, I'm somewhat familiar with Indiana because I had a relative who worked in Indiana years ago. This is a rather rare occasion, all things considered. How many troopers have lost their lives or been seriously injured in the line of duty in Indiana? Is that number possible?
I would have to research that myself, Pat, to get you a clear answer. We have had approaching 100 troopers killed in the line of duty over the Commonwealth since our department was formed for various incidents. Most of them, I believe, were related to crashes. Certainly several have been related to assaults.
And, oh Lord, I can't think of anything else. I apologize.
I guess it does cross the mind that you said it just took 15 to 20 seconds for this whole incident to go in the way that it did. In that same time period, I guess it could have gone completely south.
This incident could have unfolded much differently if not for the actions of those two troopers.
Is something like that a part of their training as they progress through and become troopers, or are they specifically trained in prisoner transport if they're given that detail?
We receive a lot of training at the academy with regard to maintaining control of a prisoner, regaining control of a prisoner, taking a command presence when that's needed, to ensure the safety of everyone involved in that incident and members of the public.
One other thing, you mentioned that the police interceptor did not have a divider between the front seat and the back seat. I know that marked cars do, or most marked cars do. Is this then an unusual occurrence to have a car that did not have a partition like that for this prisoner transport?
No, I would not say that this was unusual. We have several patrol vehicles that do not have those partitions. If you're looking for more information on that topic, I would refer you to our communications office. Are there any other questions? Okay. Thank you for your time.